When 78-year-old Elon Musk answered his phone in his small Pretoria apartment, he never expected to inherit a mansion from a stranger. The mysterious $10 million house came with a perfect story, legal papers and mountain views that reminded him of his childhood. But Errol was an engineer. Engineers ask questions. And this gift had too many questions and not enough answers. What he discovered would change everything he thought he knew about his famous son. What he did next would show the world that some family stories are too powerful for the internet to handle. This is the story of a father, a son, and a secret that took 40 years to unfold. The morning sun shone through the big windows of the Tesla factory in Austin, Texas. Elon Musk sat at his simple wooden desk. He was not in a fancy office like most rich people. His desk was right on the factory floor where workers built electric cars. Elon looked tired. His dark hair was messy. He had been working late again. But today was different. Today he was not thinking about rockets or cars. He was thinking about his father. On his computer screen were photos of a house. A beautiful house in South Africa. The house had white walls and a red tile roof. It had big windows and a swimming pool. Behind the house were mountains that looked purple in the distance. Elon knew those mountains well. They were the Magaliesberg Mountains near Pretoria. He had grown up looking at those same mountains when he was a little boy in South Africa. The house cost $10 million. That was a lot of money for most people. But for Elon, it was not about the money. It was about something much more important. He picked up his phone and called his assistant. Her name was Sarah Chen. She had worked for Elon for 3 years. She was smart, and she kept his secrets well. "Sarah, I need you to do something for me," Elon said. His voice was quiet and serious. "Of course, Mr. Musk. What do you need?" "I want to buy a house. But this must be kept secret. Nobody can know it comes from me." Sarah was surprised. Elon already owned several houses. He had a house in California and another one in Texas. Why did he need another house? "Where do you want to buy this house?" she asked. "South Africa. In Pretoria." "I will send you the details." Sarah wrote notes on her computer. "Should I use one of your companies to buy it?" "No," Elon said quickly. "Use a different name. Create a fake company. Make it look like someone else bought the house." Now Sarah was very confused. Why would Elon want to hide that he bought a house? "Mr. Musk, can I ask why this needs to be secret?" Elon was quiet for a moment. He looked at the photo of the house again. "It's for my father," he said finally. "But he cannot know it comes from me." Sarah knew that Elon did not talk to his father very much. She had worked for Elon for 3 years, and his father had never called the office. Elon never talked about his family from South Africa. "I understand," Sarah said. "I will take care of everything." "Good. And Sarah? Price does not matter. Find the most beautiful house you can. My father deserves the best." After Elon hung up the phone, he stared at the mountains in the photo. He remembered being 12 years old and looking at those same mountains with his father. His father had been different then. They had been close. But that was 40 years ago. Many things had changed since then. Elon had become one of the richest men in the world. He built companies that made electric cars and rockets, that went to space. But success had not fixed his relationship with his father. They had fought many times over the years. They said mean things to each other. Now they barely talked at all. When they did talk, it usually ended in an argument. But lately, Elon had been thinking about his father more and more. Maybe it was because Elon was getting older. He was 52 years old now. Or maybe it was because he had his own children. He understood now how hard it was to be a good father. His father, Elon Musk, was 78 years old. He still lived in South Africa, but not in a nice house. Errol lived in a small apartment. Money was tight for him. He had worked as an engineer, but he was retired now. Elon wanted to help his father, but he knew his father was proud. Errol would never take money directly from Elon. They had too much history between them. Too many hurt feelings. So Elon had come up with a plan. He would buy his father a beautiful house, but he would make it look like the gift came from someone else. His father could live in comfort without feeling like he owed Elon anything. 3 hours later, Sarah called Elon back. "I found the perfect house," she said. "It's in Waterkloof. That's the nicest area in Pretoria. The house has 6 bedrooms, a big swimming pool, and a view of the mountains. It cost exactly $10 million. Buy it, Elon said without thinking twice. Should I use your real name on any of the papers? Elon thought for a moment. This was the most important part of his plan. His father must never find out that the house came from him. No, Elon said. Create a fake person. Give him a name that sounds real but means nothing to my father. What name should I use? Elon looked at the photo of the house one more time. He thought about his plan. He thought about his father living alone in that small apartment. Use the name Musk, he said. Make him sound like a rich businessman who died and left the house to my father. Sarah wrote down the name. Musk. Got it. And you want me to make it look like this person left the house to your father in his will? Yes. Create a whole story. Make it believable. As Sarah worked on buying the house, Elon went back to his work. But he could not focus on rockets or cars. All he could think about was his father's face when he found out about the house. Would Errol be happy? Would he be suspicious? Elon hoped his father would just accept the gift and enjoy it. Outside the factory windows, the Texas sun was getting lower in the sky. Workers were finishing their day and going home to their families. But Elon stayed at his desk. He had one more phone call to make. He needed to find someone in South Africa who could pretend to be a lawyer. Someone who could call his father and tell him about his inheritance. This was the hardest part of the plan. Everything had to sound real. His father was smart. He had been an engineer for many years. If anything seemed fake, Errol would figure it out. Elon found a woman in Cape Town who worked for a real law office. Her name was Jennifer Walsh. For $5,000, she agreed to make one phone call. She would pretend to represent the fake dead businessman, Musk. Just tell him he inherited a house, Elon explained to Jennifer over the phone. Keep the story simple. Don't give too many details. What if he asks questions? Jennifer wanted to know. Tell him the man who left him the house read about him in an old newspaper. Tell him this businessman was impressed by my father's work as an engineer. And if he asks why this businessman chose your father. Elon thought about this. Tell him the businessman had no family. He wanted to help a fellow South African who worked hard all his life. After Elon hung up with Jennifer, he felt nervous and excited at the same time. His plan was risky. If his father found out the truth, it could make their relationship even worse. But if the plan worked, maybe his father would be happy. Maybe Errol could spend his last years in comfort and peace. Elon looked at the photo of the house one more time before closing his laptop. Tomorrow, Jennifer would call his father. Tomorrow, everything would change. He just hoped he was doing the right thing. 2 weeks later, the sun was just coming up in Pretoria, South Africa. Elon Musk sat at his small kitchen table eating breakfast. His apartment was tiny compared to the big houses in his neighborhood. But it was clean and it was his. Errol was 78 years old. But he still woke up early every morning. Old habits from his working days. He had been an engineer for 40 years. Engineers always started work early. His breakfast was simple. Toast with butter and a cup of black coffee. The same thing he ate every morning for the past 10 years. Since his wife died, Errol did not cook much. He kept things simple. The morning newspaper lay folded next to his plate. He liked to read the news while he ate. Today, there was a story about his son Elon on the front page. Something about a new rocket going to Mars. Errol felt proud when he read about Elon's success. But he also felt sad. They had not taught in 6 months. Their last phone call ended in an argument. Like most of their calls did. Errol missed his son. He missed the little boy who used to ask a million questions about how things works. But that little boy was gone now. In his place was a busy billionaire who had no time for his old father. The phone rang while Errol was reading about the rocket. He looked at the clock on the wall. It was only 7 in the morning. Who would call so early? Hello? Errol said into the phone. Good morning. Is this Mr. Elon Musk? The voice was a woman with an American accent. Yes, this is Errol. Who is this? My name is Jennifer Walsh. I work for a law firm in Cape Town. Walsh and Associates. Errol had never heard of this law firm. He was immediately suspicious. In South Africa, many people tried to trick old people with fake phone calls. What do you want? He asked. His voice was not friendly. Mr. Musk, I have incredible news for you. You have inherited a house. A very expensive house. Errol almost dropped his coffee cup. That's impossible. I don't know anyone who would leave me a house. Sir, I understand this is surprising, but it's completely true. The house belonged to a businessman named Elon Musk. He died last year with no family. I've never heard of this person, Errol said. Jennifer's voice sounded very professional. Mr. Musk was a mining businessman. He made a lot of money over the years. When he made his will, he said he wanted to give his house to a South African engineer who worked hard all his life. But how did he know about me? Errol was getting more confused. He read about you in an old newspaper article from the 1980s. You were working on emerald mines then. The article talked about how you developed new mining techniques. Mr. Musk was very impressed. Errol tried to remember newspaper articles about his work. There had been a few over the years, but that was so long ago. Why would a stranger remember them? Mr. Musk, are you still there? Jennifer asked. Yes, I'm here. This is just very hard to believe. I have all the legal papers right here. The house is in Waterkloof, in Pretoria. It's a beautiful property worth 10 million rand. Errol's heart nearly stopped. 10 million rand was about 10 million American dollars. That was more money than he had ever dreamed of having. Are you absolutely sure this is real? He asked. His hands were shaking now. Very sure, Mr. Musk. I have the keys to the house right here in my office. The address is 47 Mountain View Road, Waterkloof. Errol wrote the address on a piece of paper. His handwriting was shaky because his hands would not stop trembling. What do I need to do? He asked. Nothing complicated. Just come and get the keys. Everything has been paid for. Even the property taxes for the next 5 years. Who pays for things like electricity and water? All taken care of, sir. Mr. Musk left money to cover all the bills. You just need to move in and enjoy your new home. Errol could not believe what he was hearing. Things like this did not happen to regular people like him. They especially did not happen to old men who lived alone in small apartments. Can I see the house before I decide? He asked. Of course. The security guard at the gate has been told to expect you. His name is Thomas. Just tell him who you are. After Jennifer hung up, Errol sat staring at the piece of paper with the address. Mountain View Road was in the fanciest part of Pretoria. Rich government officials and business owners lived there. Houses there cost millions of rand. He looked around his small apartment. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a tiny kitchen. The furniture was old, but comfortable. He had lived here for 8 years, ever since money became tight after he retired. Now someone was telling him he owned a mansion in Waterkloof. Errol called a taxi company. I need a ride to Waterkloof, he told them. That's an expensive area, the taxi driver said. Are you sure you have the right address? I'm sure, Errol said, though he was not sure about anything anymore. The taxi ride took 20 minutes. As they drove through Pretoria, the houses got bigger and bigger. The neighborhoods got fancier and fancier. When they reached Waterkloof, Errol pressed his face to the taxi window. Every house looked like a palace. Big iron gates protected beautiful gardens. Expensive cars sat in long driveways. Here's Mountain View Road, the taxi driver said. What number? 47. The taxi stopped in front of a tall iron gate. Through the bars, Errol could see the most beautiful house he had ever seen in person. White walls, red tile roof, huge windows that sparkled in the morning sun. This can't be right, Errol whispered. Are you getting out? The taxi driver asked. Errol paid the driver and stepped out onto the sidewalk. His legs felt weak. He walked slowly to the gate and pressed the button on the intercom. Hello? Came a voice. This is Elon Musk. I think this house might be mine. The gate opened with a soft buzzing sound. A security guard walked out to meet him. The guard was a big man with a friendly smile.
Mr. Musk, I'm Thomas. We've been waiting for you.
You have? Oh yes, sir. Ms. Walsh called yesterday. She said you might come by to see your new house. Thomas led Errol through the gate and up a stone walkway. The garden was full of flowers and green grass. A fountain bubbled in the center of the front yard. Is this really mine? Errol asked Thomas. It is now, sir. Everything is paid for. Even my salary for the next 5 years. They reached the front door. It was made of dark wood with glass panels. Thomas took out a set of keys and handed them to Errol. "These are yours now, Mr. Musk." Errol's hands shook as he took the keys. The keychain was heavy and expensive looking. On it was a small tag that read 47 Mountain View Road. But something felt wrong. Errol had been an engineer his whole life. Engineers were trained to notice when things did not make sense. And this whole situation did not make sense. He looked at Thomas. "Have you ever heard of Elon Musk before this week?" Thomas thought for a moment. "No, sir. The lawyers just told me that the previous owner died and left the house to you. But you never met this Elon Musk person?" "No, sir. I only started working here last month." Errol put the key in the front door lock. It turned easily. The door opened to show a hallway with marble floors and crystal lights hanging from the ceiling. As he stepped inside his new house, Errol could not shake the feeling that someone was not telling him the truth. But who would spend $10 million to trick an old man? And why? Errol stepped into the house and gasped. The floor was made of white marble that sparkled like diamonds. Above his head hung a crystal chandelier, as big as a car. The ceiling was so high he had to tilt his head back to see the top. "This can't be mine," he whispered to himself. Thomas the security guard smiled. "It is now, sir. Would you like me to show you around?" Errol nodded. He was too amazed to speak. They walked through room after room. Each one was bigger than his entire apartment. The living room had leather loafers and a fireplace made of black stone. The dining room had a table that could seat 12 people. "How many bedrooms?" Errol asked. "6 bedrooms, sir. And 4 bathrooms, plus a study, a library, and a game room." They walked upstairs to see the master bedroom. It was huge. The bed was king-sized with silk sheets. The bathroom had a bathtub big enough for 3 people. But the best part was the balcony. When Errol stepped outside, he could see the whole city of Pretoria spread out below him. And in the distance, those familiar purple mountains he had loved since he was young. The Magaliesberg Mountains looked exactly the same as they did when he was a boy. When he used to take long walks and dream about his future, he never dreamed it would include a house like this. "The kitchen is downstairs," Thomas said. "It has every machine you can think of." They went back downstairs. The kitchen was like something from a magazine. Shiny silver machines covered the counters. A big refrigerator hummed quietly in the corner. The stove had 6 burners and 2 ovens. "I don't know how to use half of these things," Errol admitted. "Don't worry, sir. There's a book that explains everything. And if you need help, I live in the small house by the gate." They walked outside to see the backyard. It was like a park. Green grass stretched out toward the mountains. In the center was a swimming pool with blue water that sparkled in the sun. Next to the pool were chairs and tables where people could sit and relax. There was even a small outdoor kitchen for making food outside. "This is where you can have parties," Thomas said. Errol almost laughed. "I don't really have parties. I don't have many friends left." Thomas looked surprised. "A nice man like you? I'm sure you have lots of friends." "Most of my old friends have died," Errol said sadly. "That's what happens when you get old." They sat down in chairs by the pool. Errol stared at the water and thought about his life. He had worked hard for 40 years as an engineer. He had built bridges and roads. He had solved problems that other people couldn't solve. But he had also made mistakes. Big mistakes. He had not always been a good husband or a good father. He had said things he shouldn't have said. He had hurt people he loved. His relationship with his son Elon was the biggest failure of his life. They used to be close when Elon was little. Errol had taught him about machines and how things worked. Elon was so curious and smart. But as Elon grew up, they grew apart. They disagreed about everything. Politics, business, family. Their conversations became arguments. Their arguments became fights. Now Elon was one of the most famous people in the world. He had billions of dollars and thousands of people working for him. And Errol was just an old man living alone. "Mr. Musk," Thomas said. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Errol said. "Just thinking. This is a good place for thinking. Very peaceful." Errol looked around at his new home again. The beautiful garden, the big house, the mountains in the distance. It was perfect. Too perfect. "Thomas, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sir." "Have you ever heard of someone giving away a house like this to a stranger?" Thomas thought for a moment. Not really. Usually people leave houses to family members. But this Musk person had no family? That's what the lawyers told me. And he chose me because of some old newspaper article? That's what they said. Errol stood up and walked to the edge of the pool. Something was wrong with this story. In his 40 years as an engineer, he had learned to trust his instincts. When something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. But who would create such an elaborate lie? And why would they spend $10 million to do it? The only people Errol knew with that kind of money were very rich businessmen. People like his son, Elon. But that was impossible. Elon barely talked to him anymore. They hadn't had a real conversation in months. Why would Elon give him a house? And if Elon wanted to help him, why not just do it directly? Why create this complicated story about a dead businessman? Thomas, I need to ask you for a favor, Errol said. Anything, sir. I want to see the legal papers for this house. The will and the deed. Can you help me get copies? Thomas looked uncomfortable. I don't have those papers, sir. You would need to call the lawyers. Jennifer Walsh and Associates in Cape Town? Yes, that's right. Errol pulled out his cell phone and looked at the business card Jennifer had given him over the phone. She had said to call if he had any questions. Well, he definitely had questions now. I'm gonna call them right now, Errol said. He dialed the number on the card. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a recorded message came on. The number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and try again. Errol tried the number again. Same message. His heart started beating faster. The lawyers who supposedly gave him this house had a phone number that didn't work. Now he knew for sure that someone was lying to him. But who? And most importantly, why would someone spend $10 million to lie to an old man in South Africa? As Errol stood by the pool looking at the mountains, he made a decision. He was going to find out the truth about this house. Even if it meant losing the most beautiful gift he had ever received. He was an engineer. Engineers solved problems. And this was the biggest problem of his life. The next morning, Errol woke up in his small apartment. For a moment, he thought the beautiful house had been a dream. But then he saw the heavy keys on his kitchen table. The keys to 47 Mountain View Road. It was all real. The house, the mystery, the phone number that didn't work. Errol made his coffee and sat down with his laptop computer. He was not very good with computers, but his neighbor had taught him how to use the internet. Today, he needed to do some research. He typed Musk South Africa into the search box. Only a few results came up. There was a short article in a business newspaper from last year. It said that Musk had died and left his fortune to charity. But the article was very short. It didn't say much about who Musk was or what kind of business he ran. Most rich businessmen had lots of articles written about them. This man seemed to have no history at all. Errol tried searching for Musk mining. Still almost nothing. He tried Musk emerald mines. The same business article came up again. This was very strange. If Musk was a successful mining businessman, there should be more fandom about him. There should be photos, interviews, stories about his companies. But there was almost nothing. Meanwhile, in Austin, Texas, Elon Musk was having a very different morning. He was sitting in a meeting about rocket engines, but he couldn't focus. All he could think about was his father. Had Errol gotten the house keys yet? Did he like the property? Was he suspicious about the story? Elon's phone buzzed with a news alert. It was from a South African newspaper website. The headline read, "Retired engineer inherits $1 million home." Elon's heart jumped. He clicked on the article quickly. Retired engineer Errol Musk has inherited a luxury home in Waterkloof, Pretoria. The property was left to him by deceased businessman Musk, who had no living family members. Mr. Musk, 78, said he was surprised by the generous gift. "I never met this man, but I'm very grateful," he told our reporter. There was a photo of his father standing by the swimming pool. Errol looked happy but confused. It was the first time Elon had seen his father smile in a long time. Elon felt good about what he had done. His father deserved to live in comfort. But he also felt nervous. Would Errol figure out the truth? Back in Pretoria, Errol was getting more suspicious by the hour. He decided to visit the library at the University of Pretoria. Libraries had old newspapers and business records that might not be on the internet. The librarian, Mrs. Botha, had worked there for 30 years. She knew how to find information about anyone. "I'm looking for information about a businessman named Elon Musk," Errol told her. Mrs. Botha searched through computer databases and old newspaper files. After 2 hours, she came back with almost nothing. "This is very odd," she said. "For a man who supposedly owned mining companies, there are almost no records of him. What did you find?" "Just that one business article from last year saying he died, and a company registration from 5 years ago. But no newspaper interviews, no photos, no stories about his business deals." "Is that normal?" "Not at all. Rich businessmen are usually in the news all the time, especially mining businessmen in South Africa." Errol thanked Mrs. Botha and left the library. He was now certain that Elon Musk was not a real person. Someone had created a fake identity to hide who really bought him the house. But who would do such a thing? Errol thought about all the people he knew who had enough money to buy a $10 million house. The list was very short. Actually, it was almost empty. The only person he knew with that kind of money was his son Elon. But that seemed impossible. Elon barely talked to him. When they did talk, it usually ended in an argument. Why would Elon spend so much money on him? And if Elon wanted to help him, why not just call and offer the money directly? Why create this elaborate fake story? Errol decided to call his old friend Marcus van der Merwe. Marcus had worked with him at the mines in the 1980s. If there really was a newspaper article about Errol from back then, Marcus would remember it. "Marcus, it's Elon Musk." "Errol, how are you, old friend?" "I'm fine." "Marcus, I need to ask you something. Do you remember any newspaper articles about me from the 1980s? Articles about my work at the emerald mines?" Marcus thought for a moment. "There were a couple of small articles, nothing major." "Why do you ask?" "Someone told me that a businessman read one of those articles and was impressed by my work. Impressed enough to leave me his house when he died." Marcus laughed. "That sounds like something from a movie, not real life." "That's what I thought too." "Errol, who would really leave you a house?" "I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out." After hanging up with Marcus, Errol felt even more confused. His old friend confirmed that the newspaper articles were real but very small. Nothing that would make a stranger want to give away millions of dollars. Errol decided he needed professional help. He looked in the phone book for private investigators in Pretoria. He found one with a good reputation: Detective James Hendricks. Detective Hendricks had worked for the South African police for 20 years before starting his own business. His office was small but neat. Awards and certificates covered the walls. "What can I help you with, Mr. Musk?" Detective Hendricks asked. Errol told him the whole story. The mysterious phone call, the beautiful house, the fake phone number, the businessman with no history. "Someone is definitely lying to you," Detective Hendricks agreed. "But the question is who and why. Can you find out who really bought the house?" "I can try. Every property sale leaves a paper trail. Someone paid for that house with real money. I can follow the money back to its source." "How long will it take?" "Give me a week, maybe 2. Detective Hendricks charged 500 Rand per day plus expenses. It was expensive for Errol, but he had to know the truth. "One more thing," Detective Hendricks said. "Do you have any enemies? Anyone who might want to trick you?" Errol thought about this. He had made some people angry over the years. Business disagreements, family fights. But none of those people had $10 million to spend on elaborate tricks. No enemies with that kind of money. Errol said. "What about friends? Family members? I don't have many friends left. And my family." Errol paused. "My family doesn't talk to me much anymore." Detective Hendricks wrote notes in a small notebook. "I'll start by tracing the money. Property sales in South Africa have to be registered with the government. Someone's name is on those papers." As Errol walked home from the detective's office, he felt both excited and scared. Soon he would know who had given him this incredible gift. But he was afraid of what he might find out. What if the person who bought him the house was someone he had hurt in the past? What if they wanted something from him in return? Or what if it really was his son Elon? What would that mean for their relationship? That night, Errol sat in his small apartment looking at the keys to his beautiful new house. Tomorrow he would move some of his clothes there. He would start living like a rich man. But until he knew the truth about who bought it for him, he would not feel comfortable enjoying it. The mystery was eating at him like a puzzle he couldn't solve. And Elon Musk had never met a puzzle he couldn't solve. 1 week later, Detective Hendricks called Errol with news. "Mr. Musk, can you come to my office? I found something very interesting about your house." Errol's heart raced as he took a taxi to the detective's office. Detective Hendricks was sitting behind his desk with papers spread everywhere. "What did you find?" Errol asked. "Your house was not bought by Elon Musk," Detective Hendricks said. "It was bought by a company in America." "What company?" "A company called Mountain View Properties." "But here's the strange part. That company is owned by another company, and that company is owned by another company." Errol felt confused. "What does that mean?" "It means someone worked very hard to hide who really bought your house. They created fake companies to cover their tracks." Detective Hendricks showed Errol a paper with lots of company names on it. "I followed the trail through 5 different companies. But at the end I found the real source of the money." "Who was it?" Detective Hendricks looked serious. "The money came from Tesla Motors." Errol felt like the room was spinning. Tesla Motors was his son's car company. "Are you sure?" "Very sure. The final payment for your house came from a Tesla bank account in Austin, Texas." Errol sat down heavily in his chair. His son Elon had bought him the house. After all these years of barely talking, Elon had spent $10 million on him. But why didn't Elon just give him the house directly? Why create this complicated lie about Elon Musk? "There's more," Detective Hendricks said. "I also found out about the fake lawyer who called you. Jennifer Walsh? Her real name is Jennifer Walsh, and she does work for a law firm in Cape Town. But someone paid her $5,000 to make that one phone call to you." "Who paid her?" "The same Tesla account that bought your house." Errol felt angry and grateful at the same time. Angry that his son had lied to him. Grateful that Elon still cared enough to help him. "Detective Hendricks, I need to ask you not to tell anyone about this." "Of course, Mr. Musk. Everything we discussed is private." That afternoon, Errol sat in his new house by the swimming pool. He stared at the purple mountains and thought about what to do next. Should he call Elon and thank him? Should he pretend he didn't know the truth? Should he be angry about the lies? His phone rang. It was his neighbor from his old apartment building, Mrs. Vander Merwe. "Errol, I saw your picture in the newspaper. You look so happy with your new house." "Thank you, Mrs. Vander Merwe. Can I ask you something? Do you really believe that story about the stranger who left it to you?" Errol was quiet for a moment. "Why do you ask?" "Because I've been thinking about it. Who do you know that has that kind of money?" "Not many people. Your son Elon has that kind of money." Mrs. Vander Merwe was 85 years old, but she was very wise. She had raised 6 children and knew a lot about family relationships. "You think Elon bought me this house?" Errol asked. "I think someone who loves you very much bought you this house, and I think they didn't want you to know, because they were afraid you might not accept it." "But why would Elon do that? We barely talk anymore." "Maybe because you're his father. Maybe because he misses you more than you think." After Mrs. Vander Merwe hung up, Errol walked through his beautiful new house. 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a library full of engineering books. Everything was perfect. In the library, he found books about space travel and electric cars, topics that his son Elon worked on every day. Someone had chosen these books very carefully. Errol picked up a book about rocket engines. Inside the front cover, someone had written a note in pencil. "For someone who taught me to ask questions about how things work." The handwriting looked familiar. It looked like Elon's handwriting from when he was a boy. Now Errol was certain. His son had bought him this house. His son still remembered the days when they used to talk about machines and engineering together. But Elon had been afraid to give the gift directly. He was afraid that Errol would refuse it or that it would lead to another argument. Errol understood why Elon had lied. Their relationship had been difficult for so many years. Every conversation seemed to end in a fight. Maybe Elon thought this was the only way to help his father without causing more problem. But now Errol faced a difficult choice. Should he confront Elon about the lie? Should he pretend he didn't know the truth? Or should he just be grateful for the gift and try to rebuild their relationship? That evening, Errol made a decision. He was going to fly to America. He was going to see his son face to face and talk to him about this house. It would be expensive to fly to America. But he had to know why Elon had done this. And more importantly, he had to tell his son how he felt about it. Errol booked a flight to Austin, Texas for the next week. He had not seen Elon in person for 2 years. He was nervous about how his son would react. But he was also excited. For the first time in many years, he had hoped that they could fix their broken relationship. The house was beautiful, but it was just a building. What really mattered was the love behind the gift. And now Errol knew that his son still loved him, even after all their fights and disagreements. As he packed his small suitcase for the trip to America, Errol felt something he had not felt in a long time. He felt proud to be Elon Musk's father. Tomorrow, he would start the long journey to Texas. Tomorrow, he would confront his son about the biggest lie and the most generous gift of his life. But tonight, he would sleep in his beautiful new house and dream about the conversation that could change everything between them. 5 days later, Errol's airplane landed in Austin, Texas. The flight from South Africa had taken 18 hours. He was tired and nervous, but determined to talk to his son. Austin was hot and busy. Cars filled the highways. Big buildings reached toward the sky. Everything moved fast in America, much faster than in Pretoria. Errol took a taxi to the Tesla factory where Elon worked. The building was huge, bigger than a shopping mall. Hundreds of people walked in and out of the front doors. At the security desk, Errol told the guard his name. "I'm here to see Elon Musk. I'm his father." The guard looked surprised. "Do you have an appointment, sir?" "No, but this is important. Family business." The guard made a phone call. After a few minutes, he hung up and looked confused. "Mr. Musk is in a meeting about rocket engines. His assistant says she'll ask if he can see you." Errol sat in the lobby and waited. The walls were covered with pictures of electric cars and rockets. He felt proud looking at what his son had built, but also nervous about their conversation. 20 minutes later, a young woman came downstairs. She looked worried. "Mr. Musk? I'm Sarah Chen, your son's assistant. He's surprised that you're here. I need to talk to him. It's about a house in South Africa." Sarah's face went white. She knew exactly what house Errol was talking about. "Please follow me," she said quietly. They took an elevator to the 3rd floor. Sarah led him through hallways filled with people working on computers and building car parts. Finally, they reached a small office with glass walls. Inside the office, Elon was sitting at his desk. He looked older than the last time Errol had seen him. His hair had more gray in it. Lines around his eyes showed he had been working too hard. When Elon saw his father, he stood up slowly. His hands were shaking. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "Hello, Elon. I came to ask you about a house. A very expensive house in Pretoria." Elon's face turned red. He knew his secret was out. "I don't know what you mean," Elon said, but his voice was not strong. "Don't lie to me, son. I hired a detective. I know you bought it." Sarah quietly left the office and closed the door behind her. Father and son were alone for the first time in 2 years. Elon sat back down in his chair. He looked at his hands instead of at his father. "Yes," he said finally, "I bought it. I wanted you to have something nice. But why did you lie? Why create this fake story about Elon Musk?" Errol sat down in the chair across from Elon's desk. The office was small and simple, not fancy like the offices of most rich people. "Because I was scared," Elon said quietly. "Scared? Of what?" "Scared that you wouldn't take it from me. Scared that it would start another fight between us." Errol felt his heart break a little. His son was afraid of him. Afraid that trying to help would only cause more problems. "Elon, why would you think I wouldn't accept help from you? Because every time we talk, it ends in an argument. Because you've told me before that you don't need my money. Because..." Elon's voice got even quieter. "Because I thought you didn't want anything from me." The office was silent for a long moment. Outside the windows, people were working on cars that would help save the planet. Inside the office, a father and son were trying to fix something much more fragile. "Son, I need to tell you something," Errol said. "I was wrong about many things over the years. I said things I shouldn't have said. I was jealous of your success when I should have been proud." Elon looked up at his father for the first time since he had arrived. "You were jealous? You became everything I dreamed of being when I was young. Rich, famous, important. You build rockets that go to space. You make cars that help the Earth. You employ thousands of people. But Dad, I learned all of that from you. You taught me about engineering. You showed me how machines work. I taught you some things. But you did all the hard work. You built these companies yourself. They sat looking at each other across the small desk. So many years of hurt feelings and misunderstandings lay between them. The house, Errol said finally, it has a view of the Magaliesberg Mountains. I remembered that you loved those mountains when I was little. You took me there when you were 12 years old. We looked at those mountains together. Elon nodded. You told me that dreams were for rich people, that poor kids like us should focus on reality. Errol felt ashamed. I was wrong to say that. I was bitter about my own life. I took it out on you. But you were also right, Elon said. I did need to focus on reality. I worked hard. I built companies. And now you can buy houses in the mountains, Errol finished. The house I bought you has a view of those same mountains we looked at when I was 12. I wanted to prove that dreams can come true. For both of us. Errol started to cry. He had not cried in front of his son since Elon was a small boy. I'm sorry, Elon. I'm sorry I was such a difficult father. We were both difficult, Elon said. But you're still my dad. You'll always be my dad. Elon came around the desk and hugged his father. It was the first time they had hugged in 5 years. There's something else I need to tell you, Elon said as they pulled apart. Errol looked worried. What? Something I haven't told anyone yet. Something that made me want to give you that house now. Instead of waiting. What is it, son? Elon took a deep breath. His hands were shaking again. I'm sick, Dad. The doctors found something wrong with my heart. I might need surgery soon. Dangerous surgery. Errol felt like the world had stopped moving. His famous son, the man who built rockets and cars, might be seriously ill. How dangerous? Errol whispered. There's a chance I might not survive it. Errol's legs felt weak. He sat back down in his chair heavily. When did you find out? Last month. That's when I decided to buy you the house. I wanted to do something good for you before whatever happens. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because we weren't really talking and because I wanted to give you something beautiful instead of something scary. Errol stood up again and hugged his son even tighter than before. I'm staying here until after your surgery, he said firmly. Dad, you don't have to do that. Yes. I do. I missed too many important moments in your life. I'm not missing this one. For the next week, Errol stayed in a small hotel near the Tesla factory. Every day he visited Elon at work. They ate lunch together and talked about things they had not discussed in years. Elon told his father about his companies and his dreams of going to Mars. Errol told Elon about his life in South Africa and his memories of when Elon was little. It felt good to talk without fighting. It felt like they were becoming friends again. One afternoon, they sat in Elon's office watching the sunset through the windows. The Texas sky was orange and pink. Dad, can I tell you something I've never told anyone? Elon asked. Of course, son. Do you remember when I was 12 years old? You took me to see the Magaliesberg Mountains near Pretoria. Errol smiled. I remember. You were so excited to climb up high and see the view. You pointed to those mountains and I said I wanted to build a house there someday. A big house where our whole family could live. I remember that too. Elon's voice became sad. Do you remember what you said to me? Errol's smile faded. He did remember, and he was not proud of what he had said. I told you that dreams were for rich people. That poor kids like us should focus on being realistic. You said dreaming was a waste of time. That I should learn a trade and be happy with a simple life. Errol felt ashamed. He had been struggling with money that year. He was bitter about his own failed dreams. He had taken his frustration out on his 12-year-old son. Elon, I was wrong to say that. I was having a hard time in my own life. I shouldn't have crushed your dreams. But you were also right in some ways, Elon said. I did need to work hard. I did need to focus on reality. Your words made me determined to prove that poor kids can achieve big dreams too. Is that why you worked so hard all these years? Partly. I wanted to show you that the little boy who dreamed of building a house in the mountains could actually do it. Errol felt tears in his eyes. Son, you proved that a long time ago. You've built amazing things. You've changed the world. The house I bought you isn't just any house, Dad. It's the house I dreamed about when I was 12. It has a view of those same mountains we looked at together. You remembered that day all these years? I never forgot it. That day changed my life. You told me dreams were for rich people, so I decided to become rich enough to make my dreams come true. Errol stood up and walked to the window. He could see workers building electric cars in the factory below. His son employed thousands of people. His companies were worth billions of dollars. I'm so sorry I said those things to you, Errol said. I was supposed to encourage your dreams, not destroy them. Dad, you didn't destroy them. You made them stronger. Every time someone told me something was impossible, I remembered that day on the mountain. I remembered that I had something to prove. Elon joined his father at the window. The house is my way of showing that 12-year-old boy that his dream came true. And it's my way of thanking you. Thanking me for crushing your dreams? For teaching me that if I wanted my dreams to come true, I had to work harder than anyone else. For showing me that the world doesn't give you anything for free. They stood together looking out at the factory, father and son, both older and wiser than they had been on that mountain 40 years ago. There's something else, Elon said quietly. Something about why I gave you the house now instead of waiting. What? The heart problem the doctors found. It's more serious than I told you. Errol's stomach dropped. How serious? They want to do surgery next month. It's risky surgery. There's a 30% chance I might not survive it. Errol felt like he couldn't breathe. 30%? The stress of running these companies has damaged my heart. If I don't have the surgery, I'll definitely die within a year. If I do have the surgery, I have a good chance of living. But you might die on the operating table. Yes. Errol sat down heavily in a chair. His successful, famous son might die. And they had wasted so many years fighting instead of loving each other. Why didn't you tell me this when I first got here? Because I wanted us to have some good time together first. I wanted to fix our relationship before I scared you with the medical stuff. When is the surgery? 3 weeks from today. In Houston. I'm staying until then. And I'm staying for the surgery too. Dad, you don't have to do that. I know it's expensive for you to stay in America so long. Money doesn't matter. You're my son. You're the only son I have. That evening they had dinner together at a small restaurant near the hotel. They talked about Elon's childhood and his early companies. They talked about Errol's work as an engineer and his life in South Africa. For the first time in many years, they enjoyed each other's company. No arguments. No hurt feelings. Just a father and son getting to know each other again. Dad, can I ask you something? Elon said as they finished eating. Anything. Do you forgive me for lying about the house? For creating that fake story about Musk? Errol thought about this question. His son had lied to him. But the lie came from love and fear. Elon was afraid that telling the truth would cause another fight. I forgive you, Errol said. But next time you want to give me a $10 million gift, just ask me directly. They both laughed. It felt good to laugh together. Dad, do you forgive me for all the arguments we've had over the years? For all the times I was disrespectful to you? I forgive you, son. Do you forgive me for being such a difficult father? For not supporting your dreams when you were young? I forgive you too. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the restaurant, the lights of Austin twinkled in the darkness. The house, Errol said finally. It really was the perfect gift. Why? Because it brought us back together. Because it made me realize how much you still care about me. I've always cared about you, Dad. Even when we were fighting, I never stopped loving you. I never stopped loving you either. As they walked back to the hotel, Errol felt something he had not felt in many years. He felt hopeful about the future. Even with the scary surgery coming, he was grateful for this time, with his son. Tomorrow they would start preparing for the surgery. Tomorrow they would face the uncertainty together. But tonight they were just a father and son who had found their way back to each other. The next morning, Elon took his father to meet the heart doctor in Houston. The hospital was called Houston Methodist. It was one of the best heart hospitals in America. Dr. Maria Rodriguez was Elon's heart surgeon. She was a small woman with kind eyes and steady hands. She had been doing heart surgery for 20 years. Mr. Musk, she said to Errol, your son has told you about his condition? He told me he needs dangerous surgery. Let me explain exactly what's wrong, Dr. Rodriguez said. She showed them pictures of Elon's heart on a computer screen. See this area here? The blood vessels that feed your son's heart are blocked. This happened because of too much stress over many years. Errol looked at the pictures. Even though he was an engineer, not a doctor, he could see the problem. The blood vessels looked narrow and twisted. What happens if we don't do surgery? Errol asked. Without surgery, Elon will have a heart attack within 6 months. He will not survive it. And with surgery? With surgery, he has a 70% chance of complete recovery. But there is a 30% chance of serious complications during the operation. Errol felt scared and angry at the same time. Scared that he might lose his son. Angry that Elon had worked so hard that it damaged his heart. How long has this been building up? Errol asked. Probably 10 years, Dr. Rodriguez said. Stress, long work hours, not enough sleep. Your son pushes himself very hard. Elon sat quietly while the doctor explained everything. He looked tired and worried. When is the surgery? Errol asked. 2 weeks from today. We need time to prepare Elon's body for the operation. After they left the hospital, Errol and Elon drove back to Austin in silence. Finally, Errol's son, why did you work so hard that it made you sick? Elon thought for a moment. Because I felt like I had to prove something. To you, to the world, to myself. What did you have to prove? That I was worth something. That the little boy who dreamed of building houses in the mountains could actually change the world. Errol felt terrible. His son had worked himself nearly to death trying to prove he was good enough. Elon, you proved that a long time ago. You didn't need to keep pushing so hard. I couldn't stop. Every time I achieved something, I felt like I needed to achieve something bigger. They drove past the Tesla factory where thousands of people were building electric cars. They drove past the SpaceX building where rockets were being built to go to Mars. Look what you've created, Errol said. You employ tens of thousands of people. You're helping save the planet with electric cars. You're planning to make humans a space-traveling species. But what if it's not enough? Elon asked quietly. What do you mean? What if I die during surgery and none of it matters? What if I never get to see humans land on Mars? What if I wasted my whole life working instead of living? Errol had never heard his successful son sound so afraid and uncertain. Son, your life has not been wasted. You've already accomplished more than most people could accomplish in 10 lifetimes. But I missed so much. I missed time with my children. I missed time with you. I worked 18 hours a day for 20 years. That's going to change after your surgery, Errol said firmly. You're going to learn to work less and live more. What if I don't survive the surgery? Errol pulled the car over to the side of the road. He turned to look at his son. You are going to survive. And you know how I know that? How? Because you still have work to do. You still have rockets to build and places to go, and most importantly, you still have time to spend with people who love you. That evening, they sat by the pool at Errol's hotel. Elon seemed more relaxed than he had in days. Dad, I need to ask you something. What? If something happens to me during the surgery, will you make sure my children know that I loved them? Nothing is going to happen to you. But if something does, Errol looked at his son. Even as a grown man, Elon still looked like the little boy who used to ask questions about how machines worked. If something happens, which it won't, I will make sure everyone knows how much you loved them. But I will also make sure they know how much you loved building things that help people. Thank you. Elon, I need to tell you something too. What? I'm proud of you. I should have told you that every day when you were growing up. But I'm telling you now. Elon smiled for the first time all day. I needed to hear that. I'm proud of the man you became. I'm proud of the companies you built. I'm proud that you never gave up on your dreams, even when I told you to. I'm proud to be your son, Dad. They sat together as the sun set over Austin. Tomorrow they would start preparing for the surgery. Elon would need to eat special foods and take special medicines to get his body ready. But tonight was about something more important than surgery preparation. Tonight was about a father telling his son how proud he was. Tonight was about a son knowing that his father loved him no matter what happened. Dad, there's one more thing, Elon said as they got ready to go inside. What? The night before surgery. I'm going to give you an envelope. Don't open it unless something goes wrong during the operation. Elon, Don't talk like that. I need to know that if something happens, there are things you'll understand. Things I want you to know. Errol didn't want to think about his son not surviving the surgery. But he could see that talking about it made Elon feel better. Okay, but I'm not going to need to open any envelope because you're going to be fine. I hope you're right, Dad. I am right. Fathers are always right about these things. They both laughed. But underneath the laughter was fear. Fear that this might be one of their last conversations. Fear that the surgery might not go well. But there was also love. More love than they had shared in many years. 2 weeks later, the morning of the surgery arrived. Errol woke up at 5 o'clock in his hotel room. He had barely slept all night. Today, his son would have dangerous heart surgery. Today, they would find out if Elon would live or die. Errol got dressed and went to pick up Elon from his apartment. Elon was waiting outside, looking pale and nervous. He carried a small bag with clothes for after the surgery. "How do you feel, son?" Errol asked. "Scared," Elon said honestly, "but ready to get this over with." They drove to Houston Methodist Hospital in silence. The morning traffic was heavy, but they had plenty of time. The surgery was scheduled for 9 o'clock. At the hospital, they went to the surgery waiting area. Nurses took Elon's blood pressure and temperature. Everything looked normal. Dr. Rodriguez came to talk to them one last time before the operation. "Elon, are you ready?" she asked. "As ready as I can be. The surgery will take about 4 hours. We'll keep your father updated every hour." Dr. Rodriguez turned to Errol. "Mr. Musk, this is one of the most common heart surgery we do. I've done this operation over 500 times. How many of those 500 people survived?" Errol asked. 95% of them made full recoveries. Errol felt a little better hearing those numbers. 95% was much better than 70%. A nurse came to take Elon to the preparation room. This was where they would give him medicine to make him sleep during the surgery. "Dad, wait," Elon said. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. "Don't open this unless something goes wrong today," Elon said. His hands were shaking as he gave it to his father. Errol took the envelope. It felt heavy, like there were many pages inside. "Nothing is going to go wrong," Errol said firmly. "I know. But just in case." Elon hugged his father tightly. "Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for forgiving me. Thank you for being here. I love you, son." "I love you too, Dad." The nurse led Elon away down a long hallway. Errol watched until his son disappeared around a corner. Now, all he could do was wait. The surgery waiting room was full of other families waiting for their loved ones. Some people read books. Others watched television. A few people prayed quietly. Errol sat in a corner chair and stared at the envelope Elon had given him. He turned it over in his hands, but did not open it. Opening it would mean something had gone wrong. After 1 hour, Dr. Rodriguez came out to update him. "Everything is going well," she said. "We've started the main part of the surgery. Elon's heart is strong." After 2 hours, she came out again. "Still going perfectly. We're halfway done." After 3 hours, "Almost finished. Everything looks excellent." After 4 hours and 15 minutes, Dr. Rodriguez came out with a big smile on her face. "The surgery was a complete success," she said. "Your son is going to be fine." Errol felt his legs go weak with relief. He sat down heavily in his chair. "Is he awake?" "Not yet. He's still sleeping from the anesthesia. But he should wake up in about an hour." "Can I see him?" "In a few minutes. We're moving him to the recovery room now." Errol called his old friend Marcus in South Africa to share the good news. He called Mrs. van der Merwe, his wise neighbor. Everyone was so happy to hear that Elon had survived. 30 minutes later, a nurse took Errol to the recovery room. Elon was lying in a hospital bed, with machines beeping softly around him. His face was pale but peaceful. He looked so young when he's sleeping, Errol thought, just like when he was a little boy. Errol sat in the chair next to the bed and held his son's hand. The envelope sat unopened on the table beside him. An hour later, Elon's eyes slowly opened. "Dad?" he whispered. "I'm here, son. The surgery worked perfectly. You're gonna be fine." Elon smiled weakly. "I'm alive? Very much alive." "Did you open the envelope?" "No. I was too afraid to look at it." "You can open it now if you want. Or you can wait until later." Errol picked up the envelope. Now that he knew Elon was safe, He was curious about what was inside. He opened it carefully. Inside were several sheets of paper and some old newspaper clippings. The first page was a letter in Elon's handwriting. "Dad, if you're reading this, then something went wrong with my surgery. I want you to know that buying you that house was the best thing I ever did. Not because of the money, but because it brought us back together. I love you and I always have. The other papers will explain everything about your house and my companies. You'll be taken care of for the rest of your life. Elon." Errol's eyes filled with tears as he read the letter. Even facing possible death, his son was thinking about taking care of him. But there were other papers in the envelope too. Old newspaper clippings from South Africa in the 1980s. Articles about Errol's work as an engineer. The articles were different from what Errol expected. They didn't just talk about his engineering work. They talked about how Errol used to bring his young son to the mines during school holidays. One article had a photograph. It showed a young Elon, maybe 10 years old, wearing a hard hat and standing next to his father. The caption read, "Young Elon Musk learns about engineering from his father at the copper mine in Zambia." Errol remembered that day. Elon had been so excited to see the big machines. He had asked 100 questions about how everything worked. Paper-clipped to the articles was another note from Elon. "Dad, I kept these articles all these years. They remind me that you were my first teacher. You showed me how things work. You taught me to ask questions. Everything I built later started with what you taught me in those mines." The fake story about Elon Musk was based on something real. You really did inspire someone to become successful. That someone was me. Errol started crying as he read the note. All these years he thought Elon didn't value what he had taught him. He thought his son was ashamed of his simple engineering background. But Elon had kept these old newspaper articles for 30 years. He remembered those days at the mines as precious memories. "Why didn't you ever tell me this?" Errol asked his son, who was now fully awake. "Because we were both too proud to say nice things to each other. Because I thought you didn't care about my success. I cared too much. I was jealous of how successful you became. Dad, I became successful because of what you taught me. Not despite it." They talked quietly for the next hour. Elon was still weak from the surgery, but his mind was clear. They talked about the old days at the mines. They talked about Elon's childhood dreams and how they had all come true. "The house in Pretoria," Errol said finally. "It really was the perfect gift. Why? Because it brought me back to you. Because it showed me that you still loved me even after all our fights." A nurse came in to check on Elon. "How are you feeling, Mr. Musk?" "Much better," Elon said. "When can I go home?" "If everything continues to go well, you can go home in 3 days." After the nurse left, Errol looked at his son seriously. "Elon, I want you to promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you'll never work so hard that you make yourself sick again. Promise me you'll take time to enjoy your life." "I promise, Dad. This whole experience taught me that life is too short to spend it all working." "Good. Because I want to spend more time with you. I want to be a real father to you, not just someone you argue with on the phone." "I'd like that too." Outside the hospital window, the sun was setting over Houston. It had been a long, scary day. But it had also been a day when everything changed for the better. Elon was going to live. Their relationship was healed, and they both understood now how much they meant each other. 3 months later, Errol was back in South Africa, living in his beautiful house in Pretoria. But everything was different now. Every week he talked to Elon on video calls from America. The house felt like home now, not like a mystery he needed to solve. He swam in the pool every morning. He read engineering books in the library every afternoon. And every evening he sat on his balcony looking at the purple mountains he had loved since he was young. But the best part was that he wasn't alone anymore. Sometimes Elon's children joined their video calls. Errol was getting to know his grandchildren for the first time in years. "Grandpa Errol," said his youngest granddaughter during one call. "Dad says you taught him everything about engineering." "I taught him some things," Errol said with a smile. "But your dad taught himself how to build rocket ships. Can you teach me about engineering too?" "I would love to," Errol said. On the other side of the video call, Elon was smiling. He looked healthier than he had in years. His face had more color. His eyes looked rested. "What news?" Errol was amazed. In all the years he had known his adult son, Elon had never taken a real vacation. "Where are you going?" "I was hoping to come visit you in South Africa. I want to see your house." "Our house? You want to come here?" "I want to see those mountains again. The ones we looked at when I was 12. I want to remember why I started building things in the first place." Errol felt so happy he almost cried. "I would love that, son." Elon looked relaxed. His hair was longer. His clothes were casual instead of business suits. He looked like a man who was finally learning how to enjoy life. "But the mountains look exactly the same," Elon said as they drove through Waterkloof. When they reached the house at 47 Mountain View Road, Elon got out of the car slowly. He stared at the beautiful white house with the red tile roof. "This is really where you live now?" he asked. "This is really where I live." They walked through the iron gate and up the stone pathway. Thomas, the security guard, was still there, smiling and welcoming as always. "Mr. Elon," Thomas said, "your father talks about you every day." "He does?" "Oh yes, he's very proud of you." Inside the house, Elon walked through every room just like his father had done months before. He was amazed by the marble floors, the crystal chandelier, the huge kitchen with all its fancy machines. But the room that impressed him most was the library. Shelves full of engineering books reached from floor to ceiling. In the center was a comfortable reading chair with good light for studying. "This is where I spend most of my time," Errol said. Elon pulled one of the books from the shelf. It was about rocket engines. Inside the front cover was that same note written in pencil. "For someone who taught me to ask questions about how things work." "You really wrote this?" Errol asked. "I wrote it the day I bought the house. I wanted you to know that everything I learned started with you." They went outside to sit by the swimming pool. The view of the Magaliesberg Mountains was perfect. Purple peaks stretched across the horizon just like they had 40 years ago. "Dad, do you remember exactly what we said to each other that day when I was 12? "I remember I told you that dreams were for rich people." "Do you remember what you said after that?" Errol thought carefully. "I said you should learn a practical skill and be happy with a simple life." "And do you remember what I said to you?" "You said you were going to prove me wrong someday." Elon smiled. "I said I was going to become rich enough to build a house right here on this mountain. A house where our whole family could live together. And I said that was impossible. You said it was impossible for a poor kid from South Africa to become that successful." They sat quietly for a moment, looking at the mountains. A 40-year-old conversation had shaped both of their lives in ways they were just beginning to understand. "Son, I need to ask you something," Errol said. "What?" "Do you forgive me for not believing in your dreams when you were young?" "Dad, I forgave you for that a long time ago." "Do you want to know something?" "What?" "You not believing in my dreams made them stronger. Every time someone told me something was impossible, I remembered that 12-year-old boy who wanted to build a house on this mountain. So my discouragement actually helped you." "It motivated me. It made me determined to prove that poor kids can achieve anything if they work hard enough." Errol felt a mix of sadness and pride. Sad that his words had hurt his son. Proud that those same words had motivated Elon to achieve incredible things. "The house," Elon continued, "it's not just a gift from me to you. It's proof that the dream of that 12-year-old boy came true." "What do you mean?" "I dreamed of building a house on this mountain, where our family could be together. Now you live here. Now I come to visit. Now my children will come here to learn about engineering from their grandfather. So the dream really did come true." "Exactly. And it happened because you taught me that if I wanted something badly enough, I had to work harder than anyone else to get it." That evening, they had dinner together on the patio overlooking the mountains. As the sun set, the sky turned orange and pink, just like it had when Elon was a boy. "Dad, I need to tell you something else about this house." "What?" "When I bought it, I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing. I was afraid you would be angry about the lies I told. But you did it anyway. Because I was running out of time. The heart problems made me realize that life is short. I didn't want to waste any more years being angry at each other. The house saved our relationship. The house brought us back together. But we saved our relationship by being honest with each other and forgiving each other." As they got ready for bed that night, Errol felt grateful for everything that had happened. The mysterious gift, the investigation, the confrontation, the surgery, the healing, all of it had led to this moment. A father and son who truly understood each other for the first time in decades. "Elon," Errol said as they said goodnight. "Thank you for buying me this house. Thank you for teaching me to dream big enough to afford it." The next morning, they woke up early and climbed partway up the Magaliesberg Mountains, just like they had when Elon was 12. But this time, when they looked down at the beautiful house below, they both knew that some dreams really do come true. They just take 40 years and a lot of forgiveness to get there. And that was the end of this incredible story about Elon Musk and his father Errol. A story that shows us how love, forgiveness, and understanding can heal even the deepest family wounds. We'd love to know, where are you listening from today? Drop your location in the comments below and let us connect with our amazing global community. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up. Your likes help us reach more people with these meaningful stories. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for many more interesting and inspiring videos just like this one. Most importantly, please share this video with your friends and family. Stories like these remind us that it's never too late to rebuild broken relationships, and that sometimes the greatest gifts come from the heart, not the wallet. Let's spread kindness and awareness together, one story at a time. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.